Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, we have another very powerful personality with us and in world shipping, and she's none other than Jillian Carson. While we give you her details a bit later, I want to warmly welcome Jillian to the maritime industry's largest conference on technology in maritime, TIM 2021 Global Virtual Conference. We are into our second session today. So those of you who are staying with us, you've seen the gallant and vibrant inauguration session in the morning, and then we had Aero Letowara on talking to you on smart ships. Jillian is a versatile, a genius, and Jillian brings in so much of experience and expertise into the world shipping. She is presently the president of one of the most powerful nautical associations, the Nautical Institute, and she's the president of the Nautical Institute, and we have hundreds and thousands of sailors and seafarers and maritime professionals watching us today live on the Naval Connection YouTube as well as the Facebook channels and on this platform as well. So, welcome, Jillian. Before I call you and put you on the spotlight, I would like to throw some light on your expertise. And can we have Jillian's introduction, please?
Jillian Carson Jackson, FNI FRIN, commenced a career in the Canadian Coast Guard, graduating from the Canadian Coast Guard College as a navigation officer. With over 3 decades in the industry, Jillian has worked both afloat and ashore in the CCG, including 10 years as an instructor at the CCGC. Following an active role at IALA in the development of VTS training, she moved to France to work with IALA as Technical Coordination Manager. She then moved to Australia to work with the Australian Maritime Safety Authority, AMSA, as Manager of Vessel Traffic and Pilotage Services. In 2016, Jillian left AMSA to set up her own consultancy, focusing on maritime technical advice and education. In May 2020, Jillian was appointed a Director of Global Met. Jillian represents the Nautical Institute at ILA as Chair of the Emerging Digital Technologies Working Group, INAV Committee, and the Personnel and Training Working Group, VTS Committee. In July 2020, Jillian was elected as the President of the Nautical Institute, the body representing maritime professionals. Jillian's work precipitates from her years of experience and is like the morning dew, fresh and sparkling. The Naval Connection proudly presents Jillian Jackson at the Technology in Maritime TIM 2021 Global Virtual Conference.
Welcome, Jillian. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I like that. Fresh as the dew. It makes me feel very young again and very fresh. So thank you so much for that.
You are.
And it really is a pleasure. And it's such an honor to be here and to see this dream that you had of this technology and maritime event coming to life. So thank you very much. Now I'm just going to share my screen here. And I'm going to share that one right there. Oh, very good. So once again, we have a pleasure of being here in a virtual environment and to share our expertise around the globe and through different time zones. So it is a real honor and opportunity here. And it's really appropriate that we're focusing on technology in maritime. And I was able to catch some of Aero's presentation. I really have a lot of respect for the work that he's doing, and you have such a great lineup of speakers that are coming. So technology and maritime communications, and also linking that to risk management. You're going to say, how is technology linking to risk? Well, we're going to find that out. But just to start with, of course, I am with the Nautical Institute. I am the president of this wonderful organization, and it is a representative body for maritime professionals. Just a little bit about the Nautical Institute, in case you don't know. We publish a monthly magazine called Seaways, and we also do The Navigator. There's a number of specialized maritime books and guides, and these are written by maritime professionals for maritime professionals. We do accrediting of maritime training products and services, and we have a very large voice at the IMO because we have that that body of maritime professionalism behind us. So that's just a little bit about the Nautical Institute. And if you want to know any more information, if you would like to be in the NI and you're not in the NI yet, please feel free to contact me. Now, just to get started, I wanted to get a bit of interaction happening at this event. So I want you to pull out your phones. I know most of these places, they say, put your phones away. I'd like you to pull out your phone and I'd like you to go to menti.com. And if you go to menti.com, you go to www.menti.com and you enter in the code there, which is 21, I'm doing that myself, 23823, and submit that. It should open up a screen, and I'm just going to pull up the Menti screen right now. And Shukat, I just want you to confirm that you can see a slide that says rate the statements.
Yes, I can. Yes,
Excellent.
I can.
So I want you all to participate, and we're going to have 2 of these in the session. So I want you to all participate by rating the statement, which means you put that little slider on your phone across. Now, if you missed the code, don't worry, because the code's on the screen right here. It's still there. 2123823. So for those of you out there, I'd like you to rate the statements. And I want you to think, how comfortable are you using technology to support your work activities? Does technology lead to safer systems? And I think that was a bit of what Eero was getting at in his presentation. And is technology in maritime, does it have effective standards? And so I just want you to do that and then click submit. And I'm going to do that now. And while you're waiting for those, I'm waiting for a few more to come in. I want to explain a little bit about how we have these influences of technology on our lives. During the session, I'm going to be talking about setting the scene, thinking about this concept of technology, big data and risk. And I'm also going to be talking about the concept of what is a trusted system. So through the next 15 minutes or so that I have available to me, that's really the focus that we're going to have. We're going to be sort of setting the scene a little bit. And to set the scene, I'm going to ask you to actually think back in time a bit. And then we're going to look at technology and big data and risk. And then we're going to look at trusted systems. So I'm going to leave that open. You're still welcome to put in your responses to the Menti as we go. We seem to be pretty comfortable in technology. We do think, for the most part, technology leads to safer systems. And technology in maritime has standards. We're sort of a bit across the board on that one right now. So I'm going to leave it open. It's going to go off the screen, but it will still be active if you want to continue. And we'll come back and take a look at that a little bit later. So let me just slip that off the board, but it's still live. So I want you to think back to the 27th of July, 2019. Now, can you think about where you were and what you were doing? That's 2 years ago. Well, I had just finished delivering a vessel traffic services course in Fremantle in Western Australia. I was enjoying the sun, the warmth, the connection with colleagues, being physically present in an event, traveling around. At the same time, I was doing the odd Zoom meeting with colleagues in Canada. I was chatting on video calls with my children in Melbourne. But I bet none of you back then were thinking much about doing work from home, living on Zoom webinars and Zoom meetings. Even though the technology existed at that time, and Eero was mentioning, we have a lot of technology available to us, but we just may not have been using this technology in the most effective manner because we had no real need to. So back in 2019, would you have imagined attending a virtual conference? Not likely, really. And now there was no need to. In 2021, we're into our second year of finding innovative ways to use technology to connect. And when I joined this meeting, it was great because I walked up on the wharf, I joined the boat, and I went out to the meeting room. It is an innovative way to use technology to connect, to gather data, and yes, to assess risk. We have seen a disruption in how we work. We are living in a unique time, a time where disruptive technologies, and if that definition, that word doesn't mean a lot to you yet, I'm going to define it a bit later. But we're living in a time where disruptive technologies provide new opportunities and new challenges. So that brings me to some of these terminologies, vocabulary and terminologies. We know that high-performing organizations and teams display this really interesting characteristic. They use an optimum amount of shared vocabulary. That's that innate words, those words that we all use. If I say IMO in this environment, it means something. If I say IMO at my brand where I go practice my French horn, it won't mean very much. If I say AIS to you, it means something. I live in Canberra where we have the Australian Institute of Sport. So if I say AIS out in my community, it means something completely different. So we have a shared vocabulary. The words and phrases change from organization to organization. We must have a common terminology to say what we mean and mean what we say, so that we can understand where we're going. Now, if we take a look here at some of the terminology, we talk about digitization as opposed to digitalization. Now, it seems like a tiny little nuance. If we think of digitization, it's making a PDF of a document. If we're talking digitalization, it's making best use of technology, of data, to actually leverage on digitization to improve business processes. So we are now in a move, we are in the digitalization of the maritime environment, which leads us to disruptive technologies. I did promise I'd explain that. Every time I talk about disruptive technology, people come to me and they say, Jillian, it's not bad. It's not that it's a disruption. Disruption in this manner doesn't mean that it's negative. It just means that it's different. It's not the normal operation. So something that is a disruptive technology means that it has changed the operation of the market of an industry. Things like a smartphone. A smartphone was a disruptive technology, which leads us to the ability to have digital data exchange leading to big data. Now, big data is a term that's applied to data sets whose size or type is beyond the ability of the traditional relational databases to capture. So we've had to now move beyond that into an environment where we have more ability to accept more data. And if you think about it, we've got petabytes of data out there now. So we're really moving and working in this big data environment. And this big data can lead us to some of the terms and some of the developments that Era was talking about, and the concepts of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, they make use of something called the artificial neural network, this network of computing nodes that's joined together to mimic the way the human brain analyzes information. And it's the foundation of AI. Now, as you're starting to get into AI, we're actually now getting to subsets where we start seeing the concept of machine learning. And machine learning uses algorithms and statistical techniques to enable machines to improve at their tasks. So they're basically improving through experience. It takes training data that's taught over time. So it's a science that's focused on teaching computers to act like the human brain. so that they're learning autonomously over time. And this is where some of the smarts that we're starting to see amongst all of the different technologies to support smart cars, to support the concepts of autonomy and autonomous ships. Beyond that, we get into something called deep learning. Now, deep learning is a subset again of machine learning. So we're getting even smarter. It's an algorithm to enable the software to train itself to perform tasks that aren't in the training data. So think of speech and image recognition. Think of your development of training that's multi-layered in a network. So deep learning uses unstructured data and draws its own conclusions. So we're starting to see these three levels that are coming out. And now let's link that to risk. We know that risk is a probability that an undesirable event occurs and that is considered with its consequences. In the maritime environment, we're very well versed in risk and risk assessment. So how does that fit with technology? Well, we're in the midst of the digitalization of the maritime environment. Our industry, our lives have been disrupted, and we are now embracing disruptive technologies. Some of these technologies have been around for decades. Some of them have been around for a long time, and we've used them perhaps on the periphery, but now we are starting to make more use of these technologies. We have all that AIS data, all the ship tracking data available. We have other sensor data, weather, wind speed. All of this can be brought forward in the truest sense of big data, but what are we doing with that? I'm currently taking a course through the IALA Worldwide Academy. It's a quantitative risk assessment tool called IRAP Mark II, or the IALA Waterway Risk Assessment Program Mark II, which is a tool. It takes data, AIS data, shipping incident data, and more, and it puts it through a risk profile program to provide quantitative data results. And it's not alone. There's other programs out there. Do a Google search and you'll find a number of risk assessment and management tools that use big data inputs to help inform decisions. To help inform decisions through what we're now terming a decision support tool. In vessel traffic services, we've used DSTs, or decision support tools, for many years. They get more and more sophisticated. They provide you with the opportunity to see what's happening, but then they put smarts over it. They give you an opportunity to say, well, what if I did this? What would happen? They can provide a solution based on an algorithm that you as a person can decide to implement or not. Or it could go that one step further, taking it into some of that deep learning. It can actually then autonomously take some actions based on algorithms and parameters. So yes, technology in maritime and technology in maritime communications, going beyond the voice, but into the data sharing, is certainly disrupting our traditional approaches to risk assessment, to risk analysis, and to mitigation. But as we know, garbage in, garbage out. So we have to make sure that our sources are reliable and valid. If we consider some of the basic premises of risk, sort of like, looking at these images and you wonder how these things happen. I'd love to know how the pickup truck got in the water before the boat. If we think about the premise of risk, we think about what could go wrong. What would be the consequences, and what's the probability that it will go wrong? If we overlay that with the data that we have, then we can actually have a solid basis for the analysis of our risk. In a world of machine learning and developments in artificial intelligence, that artificial neural network, the data we use affects the way that we look at risk. And then the way we look at risk affects the way we use our data. But of course, there's always two sides to a story. On the one hand, we have technology. We're fairly comfortable. We saw that. I'm still looking, there's still some answers coming in for that rating the statements. So please go and do that still. We're pretty comfortable with technology. It gives us more data, it gives us more intelligence for risk assessment. We have more lessons learned, and ideally we'll have a more robust risk assessment process. On the other hand, technology can equal more automation. It can increase the decision support tools, have less human intervention, and lead to complacency, which is what we saw really what Eero was starting to talk about, which means a loss of skill sets.
Jillian,
Looking
another
forward,
1 minute.
thank you. Looking forward, if we move ahead, I like to think of where we're going to find the future. We need effective regulations with robust technology and strong values and ethics. If we're going to do all of this, we'll end up with a trusted system that we can use for our mitigation. So just to sum up, as we now bring ourselves to this concept of how technology is affecting our digitalization and the risk, the way we approach risk, I'd like to go to one last Menti, and I've got a few more statements. I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to move to the next slide. So if you go back to your Menti on your phone, I'm going to click to the next slide. After our presentation, what are your thoughts on digitalization? Will it revolutionize the maritime industry? Is information available from big data? Does it improve risk assessments? And are artificial intelligence and machine learning support systems, are they leading to safer systems? So if you're on here now, let's take a look. So go to your Menti again. We've got a couple in here already. Will digitalization revolutionize the maritime industry? Will information that's available from big data improve our risk assessments? And is artificial and machine learning, is it supporting safer systems? We've got some really good comments coming in. I'm going to leave that open just for a few minutes because I know we're running tight on time. I want to thank you very much for your participation. Continue to participate in the Mentimeter. It will remain open, and I will share the results with Shukat at the end of the session. Thank you very much for your attention. And just remember that the first step towards creating an improved future is having that ability to see it. I think we can see that future, so let's work towards creating it. Thank you very much.
Jillian, what an amazing presentation. You know, it's such engagement that you bring into this to this conference. I mean, I don't want this to end actually. I mean, I was doing this myself too, Menti. Yeah, it is an incredible thing that you're bringing in, and we would love to have you with us over and over again, Jillian. I have to do all the difficult task always when I have to end the session in between and just say, because we are running back-to-back schedules, so that's the maximum we can actually offer to a speaker. But I just want to go into the next, so we sort of have a break now where people can just refresh themselves and come back. And then we have another very, very prolific speaker, Gordon Meadow, and he's going to talk about the AI and marine robotics. But before that, Jillian, I want to have this next 5 minutes with you. And there are things which have come in on the platform. And one of the things which everybody wants to ask, and I want to ask you too, is we've talked a lot on these autonomous ships and smart vessels and everything. And Eero did a little bit of question and answer on when do we see autonomous vessels coming into a reality. Since you are on risk assessment, I'm sure there's been years. It's just like the coronavirus vaccine. They say they've done the risk assessment on, and on they didn't get much time on it. Of course, about a year or so. What is the exact time that people put uh, the research into creating an autonomous ships, and is this risk free? I mean, of course, when I talk about risk free, I don't mean zero risk. Of course, there's always a chance, but what is the risk level as of now putting autonomous ships into the water?
It's interesting. And I think Arrow had a really good response to this as well. It depends on what
Yeah,
you call autonomous and into the waters, because actually for years we've had small hydrography vessels out there working autonomously. We've had other wave riders out there. So there are smaller vessels out there right now that are working autonomously. So you say, when will they be there? We actually have some vessels out there. I think you might be thinking more on when will we see some cargo carrying autonomous vessels out there. So I think it really is important to make that nuance. And then also, what do we mean by autonomous? Does autonomous mean unmanned? Does it mean unmonitored? Where does it fit? So I think that there's actually a really broad scope in that question. And sometimes it's knowing how to ask the right question to get the right answer. And in this
yeah,
case, it is a question that comes up often. And I think it's very difficult to say. There's been a lot of risk assessment already on the small autonomous vessels that are operating right now. They have an area that they can work within. They have parameters that they work under. Now, as we're moving in and we're seeing more autonomous systems on ships, and they already are autonomous systems on ships, we are seeing that grow bigger. So it's a bit like thinking 2 years ago, we could use Zoom. It was existing. I used Zoom, nowhere near as much as I do now. But now think of how we use it. So it's not necessarily that we don't have autonomous vessels and now we do. We are already in the continuum and there already are autonomous vessels out there. So it depends on the type of
yes.
autonomous vessel and what level of autonomy we're looking at.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. It's too large a, domain that we enter while talking about autonomous ships. And it's very interesting that you mentioned using Zoom. I personally used Zoom in 2019, and
Yeah.
before even the pandemic. And people were. I remember giving a presentation, and people were saying, what is this? What is this?" And yeah, things like that. One more question, Jillian, because I we interact with a lot with sailors and students, and hundreds of students watching you now. And of course, it's a very simple question, but then some of the things that I wanted to, delve into was very simply, what is the difference between, in simple terms, and not getting into technical details, what's the difference between a smart ship and an autonomous ship?
Oh, you asked that question. You say not to get into technical
Yeah,
terms.
like I said, this was particularly asked to me by a
Yeah.
student, and especially students who are studying in the maritime colleges. And
Mm.
in the reality, autonomous ship is getting everything into one particular thing. But does that is there any particular detail and specific difference between two?
I actually haven't seen a definition of a smart ship and an
Yeah,
autonomous ship. Think of like smartphones. I guess in a way, if
yeah,
you want to
yeah,
make it
yeah.
very, very basic, you think of what you can do with a smartphone, what you used to do with a mobile phone. They're quite different. So if you think about the intelligence and that artificial neural network that I was talking about, those levels of intelligence that you have are what you're overlaying on a smart ship. Whereas autonomous ships would have that level of autonomy. And I think
Okay.
that we're probably running out of time. I have a feeling that's about what you're going to say, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And I'm reading out from another laptop where we mapped another question coming from Mr. Subrata. And I think this will be the last one, Gillian, if I can scrape in this.
Okay.
To what extent is risk management effective through technology advancement and without human intervention? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think hopefully I'm going to answer the right question because it's something that I've had as well as I look at these quantitative risk models. I also do a qualitative risk assessment process where it's a workshop on the simplified IALA risk assessment or the port and waterway safety assessment process, where you get experts in a room and you gather their opinion. Whereas a quantitative tool is taking data. But I always think, again, it comes back to that garbage in, garbage out. You also need to overlay that with your expert information. So you look at your risk assessment with the data that you have for a quantitative approach, but you also put your expert qualitative judgment on top of that. So right now we do have decision support tools that are using those artificial neural networks and deciding on action. Now, the most effective approach that I've seen so far with these tools is when you have that human intervention to say, these are the options, A, B, and C all work, but actually I think C is the one I need to do. So you have that human interaction. Humans work really well. We're going to have to work on how we work with it, with tools, just like we have to work on how we work with each other. We're communities of experts. And now one of our experts are these smart systems or these tools that are available to us through technology.
Wow. And Jillian, like I said, I don't want to let you go at this point, but then, we've got to keep to the schedule and give people a chance to hear speakers from all around the world. So thank you so much. And thanks to Nautical Institute. Personally, I am very interested in bringing your VTS course to Indian audience. And we will be talking offline on this. And probably in the next few months, we'll be able to work out a structure on how to bring this. I'm very interested to bring this VTS enhanced workshop to India as well. So keep doing a good job, and thanks to Nautical Institute also for supporting the event as a support sponsor. Jillian, thank you from Tim, and we will take out a souvenir with the full recording of your the session, and which again hundreds and thousands of people will watch over the globe. So gentlemen and ladies, thank you for your engagement so far. We're still on the second session, and we'll come back with Gordon Meadow live at what time is it? Yes, it's 13:40 Indian time. Till then, please do visit all the booths that we have had: HSBC, StormGeo, Wärtsilä, HIMT, Blooms, and Ocean Technology. Take a round and use the networking lounge, meet new people. That's the purpose of this event, is to network new people, share ideas, and learn. And from all of us, Jillian, thank you so much. Till we meet again, thanks from Team 2021. Namaskar.
Thank you.